In the vast timeline of our planet's history, where does life as we know it truly begin? The Paleozoic era, a time that spanned from 541 to 252.17 million years ago. A period so remote, it's hard to grasp its significance. Yet it's essential to our understanding of the world as we know it today. This era, known as the Paleozoic, was a time of great change. It was during this time that our planet began to take shape, and life as we know it began to flourish. The continents as we know them today were forming, the oceans were teeming with life, and the first plants were beginning to sprout on dry land. But what makes the Paleozoic era so special? What sets it apart from the countless eons that came before it? The answer lies in the life forms that emerged during this time. The Paleozoic era is often referred to as the Age of Fishes, but it was so much more than that. It was the age of life, the age of biodiversity. During this time, life on Earth exploded in complexity and diversity. Creatures with hard shells and skeletons emerged, plants colonized the land, and the first insects began to buzz. It was a time of unprecedented innovation in the history of life on Earth. But how did this happen? What sparked this great explosion of life? Was it a sudden change in the environment, or was it the result of gradual evolution over millions of years? These are questions that scientists are still trying to answer today. As we delve into the mysteries of the Paleozoic era, we invite you to ponder these questions. Consider the vast expanse of time that has passed since then. Think about the creatures that roamed the Earth during this time, their struggles and triumphs, their evolution and extinction. Join us as we journey back in time to a world both strange and familiar as we explore the Paleozoic era. Imagine a world teeming with life, in forms more diverse and bizarre than one could dream of. Welcome to the Cambrian Period. About 540 million years ago, the Earth entered a new chapter, the Paleozoic era, marked by the onset of the Cambrian Period. This epoch was unlike any other that had come before. It was a time of evolutionary creativity, a time of rapid diversification of multicellular life, an event so significant it has been dubbed the Cambrian Explosion. So what exactly sparked this dramatic burst of life? The answer, like many in the realm of science, is not straightforward. It's thought that a combination of factors, such as a rise in oxygen levels and the development of predator-prey relationships, stimulated this evolutionary leap. The Cambrian Explosion was a real game-changer. For the first time, organisms with hard shells and exoskeletons appeared. These new, fortified forms of life not only offered protection from predators, but also provided a framework for more complex structures and systems to develop. The first eyes, legs, and even primitive brains emerged during this period. The fossils from the Cambrian period offer a snapshot of life's earliest experimentations with complexity. Each one is a testament to nature's boundless imagination, from the five-eyed Opobinia with its trunk-like appendage to the spiky, armored Hallucigenia, a creature so strange it was initially reconstructed upside down. The Cambrian period was a time of trial and error, of evolutionary hits and misses. New ecological roles were being explored, and the groundwork for future evolutionary paths was being laid. It was a time when life was figuring out the rules of the game, and the game was survival. The Cambrian Explosion didn't just change the face of life on Earth, it set the blueprint for all life that followed. The Cambrian period set the stage for the evolution of complex organisms, paving the way for the periods to come. From a burst of life to a time of change, we now move to the Ordovician Period. Let's journey back around 485 million years ago. The Earth was a vastly different place, a world in flux and full of possibilities. This was the Ordovician Period, an era defined by its diverse marine life and dramatic climate shifts. The planet's continents were mostly clustered in the southern hemisphere, with a large ocean, the Iapetus Ocean, dominating the northern hemisphere. The climate of the Ordovician period was initially warm, with high sea levels and no polar ice. However, as the period progressed, the climate became cooler. This cooling trend eventually led to a severe ice age, causing the sea levels to drop dramatically and glaciers to form. Life in the Ordovician period was primarily underwater. Marine biodiversity was at its peak. The seas teemed with life forms that were more complex and varied than those seen in the preceding Cambrian period. This was the era of the orthocones, the brachiopods and the trilobites. The first true fish also made their appearance. In addition, the first primitive plants began to colonize the land, marking the beginning of terrestrial life. But it wasn't just the emergence of new species that made the Ordovician period remarkable. It was also a time of significant evolutionary advancements. Towards the end of the Ordovician period, the planet was struck by one of the most severe extinction events in its history, the end Ordovician extinction event. The cooling climate and the dropping sea levels wreaked havoc on marine life. It's estimated that around 85% of all marine species were wiped out during this event. This extinction event brought an end to the Ordovician period, paving the way for the next era of the Paleozoic, the Silurian Period. The Ordovician period was a time of dramatic change, shaping life in ways that would echo through the ages. It was an era that witnessed the emergence of new life forms, the first steps of life onto land, and a catastrophic extinction event that forever changed the course of life on Earth. Next, we venture into the Silurian Period, a time of calm after the storm. The Silurian Period, a span of around 30 million years, was a time of relative tranquility following the violent upheavals of the Ordovician period. The climate of the Silurian was generally warm, with high sea levels due to melting glaciers. These seas were teeming with diverse marine life, including jawless fish, crinoids, and the first corals. But the Silurian period was not just a time of calm, it was also a time of significant evolutionary leaps. Indeed, this was the era when life began to take its first tentative steps onto land. Let's consider for a moment the humble moss. Today, we're so accustomed to seeing greenery that we hardly give it a second thought. But in the Silurian period, the evolution of the first land plants, simple mosses and liverworts, was a game changer. These pioneering plants began to colonize the barren, rocky land, slowly transforming it into a green and inviting world. And where plants led the way, animals were quick to follow. The first terrestrial arthropods, millipedes and centipedes, emerged during the Silurian period. These were the first creatures to leave the sea permanently, and they paved the way for all subsequent terrestrial life. In the meantime, the seas were becoming ever more diverse. The first bony fish appeared, ancestors of all modern fish and indeed of all vertebrates. This was the beginning of a new chapter in the history of life on Earth, a chapter that would eventually lead to us. So while the Silurian period may not have the dramatic events of some other eras, its importance cannot be overstated. This was a time of firsts. The first land plants, the first land-dwelling animals, the first bony fish. The Silurian period may have been a time of relative peace, but it was a vital chapter in the story of life on Earth. Now we dive into the Devonian period, often called the Age of Fishes. Imagine a time when the world was teeming with a myriad of marine creatures, with fish being the dominant life form. This was the Devonian period, a fascinating chapter in Earth's history that spanned from approximately 419 to 359 million years ago. During this period, our planet witnessed an incredible proliferation of fish. The seas, rivers, and lakes were filled with a diverse array of these creatures. From the armored placoderms, the first jawed fish, to the cartilaginous fish, ancestors of today's sharks and rays, the Devonian seas were a bustling hub of aquatic life. But the Devonian period was not just about the fish. It was also a time when the first trees began to appear, forever changing the landscape of our planet. These were not trees as we know them today, but primitive forms like the watiesa, standing tall and proud, reaching for the sun's rays with their fern-like fronds. And let's not forget the evolution of seed-bearing plants, another significant event during this period. These plants, known as gymnosperms, were a game-changer in the plant world. They developed a new way to reproduce, producing seeds that could survive harsh conditions and travel far from the parent plant. This innovation led to a dramatic increase in plant diversity and contributed to the greening of the Devonian landscape. The Devonian period was also the time when the first insects made their appearance. These tiny creatures, although often overlooked, played a critical role in the ecosystem. They helped break down dead organic matter, recycling nutrients back into the soil, and served as a food source for other animals. In essence, the Devonian period was a time of great diversification and evolution. It was a period of significant innovation in both the marine and terrestrial realms. The Devonian period was a time of profound change both in the seas and on land. Prepare for a world unlike any other as we explore the Carboniferous period. This era, a veritable wonderland of prehistoric life, occurred approximately 359 to 299 million years ago. It's a time that's often referred to as the Coal Age, and for good reason. The Carboniferous period was characterized by a tropical climate. This climate fostered the growth of extensive forests and vast swamps, which played a pivotal role in shaping our planet's geological and biological history. Imagine, if you will, a world cloaked in dense foliage where towering ferns and horsetails dominated the landscape. It was during this period that the first reptiles began to emerge. These cold-blooded creatures, with their scaly skin and the ability to lay hard-shelled eggs, were well suited to the humid environment. They evolved from amphibians, and their arrival marked a significant turning point in the history of life on Earth. The reptiles weren't the only inhabitants of the Carboniferous period, though. The swamps and forests were teeming with life, from dragonflies with wingspans that could stretch up to 2 feet, to millipedes that could grow up to 6 feet long. But perhaps the most enduring legacy of the Carboniferous period is the abundance of coal. The dense vegetation of the period, after dying and falling into the swamps, was subjected to high pressure over millions of years, transforming into the coal we mine today. This abundant carbon-rich resource has fueled our industrial growth and continues to be a significant energy source. The Carboniferous period was a time of lush growth and transformation, leaving a legacy we still benefit from today. It was a time when life was flourishing and our planet was taking on a familiar form. So, as we journey through Earth's history, let's continue to marvel at the wonders of the past and the lessons they hold for our future. Finally, we reach the Permian period, the final chapter of the Paleozoic era. This was a time of vast transformation, a period of about 50 million years that closed the curtains on the Paleozoic era around 252 million years ago. The Permian period was like a grand theatre of life, teeming with an array of life forms. The land was dominated by the synapsids, the predecessors of mammals, while the oceans saw the rise of the ammonites, a group of marine mollusks. Plants evolved as well, with the appearance of the first conifers, changing the landscape into vast forests that would eventually form much of the world's coal deposits. The climate during the Permian period was unlike anything we see today. It was a time of extreme temperatures, with scorching hot, dry deserts covering vast swathes of the supercontinent Pangaea. Meanwhile, the outer regions of this supercontinent were covered in ice, creating a stark contrast in the world's climates. However, the Permian period is perhaps best known for the Permian Triassic extinction event, a catastrophe of colossal proportions. This event is often referred to as the Great Dying, and for good reason. It is estimated that nearly 90 to 96% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial life vanished. The cause of this mass extinction is still a point of debate among scientists, but it is believed that a combination of volcanic activity, climate change, and possibly an asteroid impact might have been responsible. The Permian period represented a time of drastic changes, both in the life forms that populated the Earth and the very climate they lived in. It was a period that ended in tragedy, with the greatest mass extinction in Earth's history. Yet, it also set the stage for the rise of a new era, the Mesozoic, and the emergence of the dinosaurs. The Permian period marked the end of the Paleozoic era, but it was not the end of life's story. We have journeyed through time, from the Cambrian Explosion to the Permian extinction. We began with the Cambrian Explosion, a time when life exploded in diversity and complexity, giving birth to many of the major groups of animals that we know today. It was the start of an evolutionary race, a competition for survival that has shaped the course of life on Earth. Then we moved on to the Ordovician Period, a time of great geological activity. The continents were on the move, creating new habitats and environments. The seas teemed with life, from primitive fish to the first land-dwelling plants. The Silurian Period was next, a time of stability and growth. The first vascular plants appeared, and the first arthropods began to explore the land. The oceans were home to a rich diversity of life, from coral reefs to the first jawed fish. In the Devonian Period, the race for life moved onto the land. Plants evolved to become taller and more complex, creating the first forests. Fish evolved into the first tetrapods, creatures that could live both in the water and on land. The Carboniferous Period was a time of swamps and coal forests, a time when the earth was teeming with life. The first amniotes appeared, creatures that could lay their eggs on land, freeing them from the need to return to the water to breed. Finally, we arrived at the Permian Period, a time of great change and upheaval. The continents came together to form a single supercontinent, Pangaea, and the climate became drier and harsher. Life had to adapt or die, leading to the greatest mass extinction in Earth's history. The Paleozoic era may be a distant memory in Earth's history, but its legacy lives on in the life that thrives today. The lessons of the Paleozoic era remind us of the power of evolution, the importance of adaptation, and the resilience of life in the face of change.